Good evening, Book War followers. Oh, just sitting here. I'm gonna wait for Miss Hattie to join me as we decide to discuss and tell you a little bit about what we are reading right now, what we're liking, what we're hoping for. Wrong one. Here we go. What we're loving, what we're not loving. Though most of us don't, neither one of us really go to much that we don't like. So we don't tend to do that if we can help it. Ooh. Well, I'm giving you a minute. Sometimes it takes a minute for you to.
Okay. It's not working.
No. Okay. Give it a second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think you might be there now.
Is it working now, Hannah? Is it working now? No, maybe not.
Well,
guessing that's
no. Okay. Now we might be on the same time now.
Okay. Are we on the same time now?
I think so.
Close?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Okay, it just needed a minute to like sync up with your video and my video. Okay. I realized, of course, that I forgot to go on the proper network, but like my phone usually connects to it, so I didn't think about it, and then I was like, oh crap, maybe tonight.
Tonight would be the night that would not work properly.
I know.
Yeah.
I have like one thing I have to remember to do before I jump onto these things, and like
it's hard.
At least 90% of the time I forget.
You forget. It's okay. It's okay. I think it's okay now. I think we're okay.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. I feel like we're doing an okay back and forth now, so hopefully it stays that way.
It always takes a minute for you to kind of like get there.
Yeah.
So
catch up. Yeah, for the videos and the audio to sync up properly.
So I do have to show you my cup.
Yeah. Okay, I'm a ray sunshine. Yes, I had to read it backwards, by the way.
No, I know
that's
you
why
do.
It took me a sec.
I know.
Yeah. That's why I literally had to like, okay, I'm thinking as I'm reading. I don't usually read that slow. It's not usually that much work, but
Ashley gave it to
backwards
me.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Because she also realizes that you are indeed a ray of friggin' sunshine.
Friggin' sunshine. It's true. It's true.
It's
true.
I love it.
Yeah.
Perfection. Yeah.
So tonight we are chatting about the books that we're reading, what we're liking, what we're not liking, what we're looking forward to for the rest of April, if we have anything coming up. And so, yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So first, I just wanted to update everyone because last time I was in the middle of listening to The Warmth of Other Suns, the epic story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson.
Yeah.
And I finished it. I finished listening to it. I listened to it. It's a big one.
It's a big
for all of those people who love a big, nice tome to read. This is an excellent one. And it was fantastic. I think it may have been my first 5-star book this year.
Oh, wow.
Maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if I've given anything else 5 stars this year yet. So I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. I love how she, it's nonfiction. And what she did was she basically interviewed 3 people who migrated to the north during this Great Migration from different generations. So like different eras. So like one lady migrated, I think in the 20s, maybe the 30s. It might have been the 30s. It might have been right after the crash of 29. So I think she migrated in like the 30s. And then I think there was one gentleman right after, or one gentleman during the World War, and then one right after the Second World War. So they came in like at different time points, and so like their experience of the Great Migration, which of course at the time like they didn't understand it
of course,
like they were just they were just leaving the Jim Crow South and sort of hoping for something much better in the North, which in some ways that was true, and in a whole bunch of ways that was not true. So anyway, so she followed the 3 different individuals, like told their stories throughout, along with a lot of like just historical information. But I thought it was a really great way to like make a book that's this long and this thick
Right.
and this dense, really. Really like readable and very like listenable. I will say, because I listened to it. Like it kept my interest the whole time. Like I cared about these people, I cared about their family. I wanted to know, you know, how things went for them along their way and along their journey. So I thought she did a fabulous job of staying true to their stories, and I love histories that are actually like people's experiences and people's stories, rather than just like a series of events, you know, with names and dates, right? That's kind of a drag.
Can be.
And this definitely was not that. It was like you cared about these people, you cared about their lives and their families, and like what was coming up next. And I just, I highly recommend The Warmth of Other Suns to everyone. It was done very, very well. And I loved it from start to finish. And I do think it was my first 5-star book.
At least in a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a ton of 5s. I really, really don't. But that one definitely, it earned it. She earned it.
Nice.
She earned it.
Good.
Yeah. So that was just my little update that I wanted to share before we got distracted by the new stuff that we're reading.
I was also going to, just sticking in the nonfiction realm, I just wanted to speak real quickly to The Killers of the Flower Moon, which we read for our book club and cocktails. It was the second time for me, and I just wanted to point out the difference between reading a book and listening to a book. So the first time I read it, I read the book, got it from the library. The library was like, everybody should read this book. It should be cool. So I was feeling very good about myself. Recommended from a friend of mine who only really reads history stuff. And in the first reading, I remember it's kind of like set in 3 sections, and the first section was really engaging for me. And I remember thinking, man, it was so great at the beginning, and then it kind of lost me along the way. Well, the second time I listened to it because I was running out of time to read it. And so I listened to it, and it was actually the second section that I really gravitated towards and was really imaginative with. And a lot of that has to do with who the actor was who read it, who I knew who it was. And like, I have a very, I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to cry, but a very emotional connection to this particular actor and some of the things that he's done. And so that section really captured my imagination in a different way than it did when reading it. And I think that there is something beautiful about like having those experiences. And it's only been about a year since I've read it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been
I think you read it like last year, and then we put it on the list. So,
but I do think it is. I know there is still a lot of, I don't know if it's scorn or what you want to call it, around Audible or listening to books and like, oh, it's not real reading. No, it is. And I don't care what anybody says, it is reading, and it is a different experience and a different way of getting content. But it also, and like, there's a beauty in that if you do read it and listen to it, or like simultaneously, some people do as well, that there is different ways and different things will grab you and capture your imagination at different times. So anyway, but Hattie, it was the first time. Hattie read it in 2 days, by the way.
I did. I literally read this thing. I think I started it like in the evening of one day, and I finished it like not the next morning, but like the morning after that. I blew through this.
Yeah.
So history is my thing, like for sure. And so like, obviously, like I'm a person who's gonna like, you know, enjoy reading something like this, like genre-wise. But this, it was captivating. The story, I'd never heard of the Osage murders in Oklahoma, or basically they were the murders of indigenous Osage folk in Oklahoma, so that people could get access and to the oil rights.
Well, and to their fortunes, like they just literally stole money, killed them to steal their money. Yeah,
it was oil money. And the white guys down in Oklahoma wanted access to the oil money, and they ended up killing a lot of Osage indigenous folk to get their hands on it. And I'd never even heard of this, this murder, sort of spree that was happening. And the way it was just written, I agree with Hannah. I really like the first part. Was super engaging. You're really getting like the stories of the people, of the indigenous people, and you're getting their background, which is just like super engaging stuff that we don't get enough of those stories, and we don't get to hear those voices very often. So that was phenomenal. And I will say, like, as much as it's sort of annoying how oftentimes things become like one story becomes a story about something else, like this story definitely was like this one story, the Osage murders, that then in this book becomes the story of the birth of the FBI. And so then you have, you know, this other story that's sort of going along with it, which was also sort of intriguing because it didn't know much, you know, sort of about those sort of nascent years of the FBI. And then, you know, and then the last section kind of sort of like wraps it all up, and you get kind of that sense of closure at the end. And I did think that David Grann did a great job of engaging the reader and making
agreed
writing a really good story, even though the content was extremely difficult, right? Like this is a horrible thing, you know. Exploitation and murder and greed, you know, it's sort of a horrible story in that sense. But, you know, David Grann made it super accessible and really powerful and meaningful. And I agree with your librarian.
Should be.
Highly recommend this, and everybody should read it.
And it is this kind of pivotal maybe is not the right word, but it is this piece of American history that is glaringly silent, particularly for white America. And I think there is something in that of like, look at it, and see some truth in this, and then continue to let that expand at your imagination and the choices that you make moving forward as well around what you read and what you consume. But like, it is just absolutely, and it's so complicated, and he doesn't try to like uncomplicate it, which is also, I think, helpful. I will also say this is the second David Grann we've read, and I think I read, because we both read The Lost City of Z.
Okay. Okay. I actually read The City of the Monkey Gods, which was written. It's about the. Hold a second. Sorry. Never mind. I think I'm thinking of something else.
You did read The Monkey Gods too, but did you not read The Lost City of Z?
I don't think. Okay, that's not the zombie war one, right?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting my Z titled books confused in my head right now.
The Lost City of Z it's written by him, and I thought it was you and or Jeremiah, both of you, our oldest brother, by the way, when I say Jeremiah, had recommended it, and it is about the Amazon and
the Lost City. Okay, because I read The Lost City of the Monkey Gods, which was not written by him. No. It was written by somebody else, but I don't know that I wrote. I'm not sure I read the one that was written by him.
Okay. Maybe you didn't read it. Maybe I just did. And Jeremiah had recommended that book as well.
He probably.
And it is also very, very, very good, particularly for a nonfiction and for a person who doesn't read it, who is like learning to read more nonfiction, myself. It was also very, very good. And so it is about the, I want to say I'm not going to put it in air quotes, the colonization of the Amazon, and the kind of romanticization of that time, that discovery time in England particularly, and trying to find this lost city of Z, in the Amazon, and what happened to all of the Amazon because of that, and the ongoing consequences to the earth and all ecology because of we need to go find a gold city.
It's about the same historical information. The lost city of the city of the Monkey Gods is the same city as the lost city of Z. It's the same thing. Okay. It's just two different names for the same mythological city in the jungle. So it's about the same thing, and that's why I was like getting myself confused.
But also a good read particularly if you're just getting into nonfiction. David Grann is an excellent choice. And actually, he has a new book that's supposed to be coming out April 18th, 2023 is what it says on the back of it, called The Wager. It's about a shipwreck. So we'll see.
You must have a different edition. I don't have that on mine. So.
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, doesn't matter. But,
doesn't matter. couple more. I'm just going to go through a couple more nonfiction pieces, Hattie. Do you have more nonfiction?
I've got one other nonfiction. Yep,
okay. So me and my nonfiction right now. So one, I took Hattie's recommendation from the our talk 2 weeks ago, and I started The Real Valkyrie. I'm listening to it, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Good.
I had to pause it to get The Killers of the Flower Moon done, but I would just, if you want to know more about that particular book, I would definitely listen to our old one, because Hattie will do a better job explaining it than me.
Yeah, I talk about that one quite a bit.
I'm still working my way through Trusting Kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you with your True Kids.
It's a tough one. It is so good. It is just so hard to pick up, because I'm like, okay, I have to go break my world for a while, and it'll be fine. I'm going to get it done.
But it does make it tough.
I'm going to get it done. I also just finished, it's called A Long Walk to Water. Just this tiny little book that's written for kids, young, I'd say it's probably middle school aged.
Oh yeah, that looks like
it was handed to me by a woman who's a teacher, 4th grade teacher at my church, and she's like, you need to read this. I'm like, okay. She's like, I read it in like a sitting, which you could, because it's just like 100 pages. I read it in 2 days, because I just couldn't get my, some days it takes me a while. But it's based on a true story of a Sudanese lost boy. And both his story and then a young girl's story in the Sudan in like 2006. So early 2000s. And so there is a lot of like historical stuff in the midst of it. It's based on a true story. So it's not like 100% there are some like embellishments. Yeah, that's the right word, right? Not embellishments. Embellishments. Yeah. I get those words.
Yeah, not embezzle, embellish.
I get mixed up really bad in my brain.
Hard, it's late.
But it is, I would highly recommend it. If you just are like looking for something a little, it's not light, exactly, that's not, but like a meaningful book about something real that maybe you're just trying to get into reading, or you just need a little palate break. It's a really quick little read that's like, oh, gosh, I didn't know those things, and like really feel it. And then the other nonfiction I started, because I'm going on a retreat with some women at the end of this week, some other women who I went to seminary with, is called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hershey.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
And it is fantastic. I'm going to say it is, I'm not super far into it, but it is excellent. And it is about decolonizing our brain from the white supremacist patriarchal mode of that our bodies are meant to be machines, and that rest is luxury, not a human right. I'm gonna see if I can find this one line that you, Hattie, for sure will very much appreciate.
Okay, hope you can find it.
We are not resting to be more productive. We are resting simply because it is our divine right to do so. That is it. Rest in this proclamation for a minute. So,
I love it.
I know, right? I was like, it's like, yep. We're not, it's not about doing more. It is just because it is my right as a divine child of God to do so, and so I will. Thank you very much. Anyway, it is excellent. And you can follow her on the Nat Ministry, both here on Instagram. I think she has a Facebook as well. And I highly recommend it. It does tend to like interrupt sometimes the things the messages that we're receiving, even if they're quote unquote positive. Sure. Sometimes her way of reframing what that positivity and like toxic positivity as well, which we all do a little bit of. So anyway, it's an excellent book, and so far, and I have every hope that it will continue to be so. So I'm really looking forward to it, getting it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, you go for a while, because I had a lot of nonfiction today.
Yeah. No, it's good. I had one other nonfiction. I picked this one up. This is called The Heroine with 1,001 Faces. And this is nonfiction. I picked this up when I was with Hannah when we went on our tour of Minnesota
booksellers.
Yep. And It is fabulous. It is written by Maria Tartar, and she is the John L. Loeb Research Professor at Harvard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and Senior Fellow at Harvard Society of Fellows, and then like a whole bunch more important things. Right. But anyway, it's written by an academic, but it is super readable. It's not like hardcore academic writing in the sense that it's not difficult to read and to follow. But what she's doing, it's brilliant what she's doing, and it's like we all know this is true, and she's literally just like laying it out for us in a brilliant scholarly way. That basically, you know, men have always been heroes. Heroes is male. Hero is male. Right. Heroine, of course, is female. And all of our ideas of what hero means and looks like are male gendered, right? And anyway, and so she's just picking it apart. She's picking apart all of sort of like the Western traditions, but the thing I do like about her though is she while that's her main focus, because those are the mythologies that have influenced like American society and the most.
Herself, I'm sure.
You know, she does not neglect other there's definitely like here and there and everywhere there's a, you know, Middle Eastern stuff, different African countries with their mythologies, Eastern European, Russian, maybe even I think she's had a few Japanese and Chinese as well, because she's basically just like using all of these different mythologies, these different stories, these fairy tales, and she's really picking them apart and showing us how they've been used to make it so that women don't get to speak their truth. That's not a thing that gets to happen. Right. That these very particular gendered male attributes equal heroic. Right. Right. And that women, like this isn't going to be a surprise to Hannah anyway, maybe not to other people listening either, but that women, you know, basically get three roles, right? You know, they get to be the mother, they get to, you know, stay at home and be the domestic caretaker, right. Yep. And you know, and they, you know, birth and supply the world with heroes, right? Like this is what the mother of heroes,
the mother of God,
and the mother of heroes, and then they're also the reward at the end of the day, right? Well, so like the hero gets to go on the journey and on the quest, and at the end of the day, the hero just think, you know, Odysseus, right? He gets to come home to his wife who's been waiting for him for, you know, 20 years or whatever, right? She's still just there waiting, right? Anyway, that's just one of the many that she picks apart. Penelope waiting for Odysseus, but it's brilliant. I love it. I'm definitely going to recommend it to our friend Amy, who loves this kind of stuff, and anyone who like just wants to kind of be like, yeah, wow, it's amazing how pervasive this like
ideology,
this hyper masculinity hero idea has become, and how much it's infiltrated all of our understandings of what heroic even means. And just it's really, you know, just sort of shaped our whole understanding of hero, and roles for women and roles for men, and anyway, it's really great. So I highly recommend it. I'm maybe like a quarter of the way in, but it's really great, and it's The Heroine with 1,001 Faces by Maria Tartar. So highly recommend that one too. That is nonfiction.
But I'll have to get that after you're done. I'll have to borrow.
It's super good.
Okay.
It's super. Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about your fiction? I just have one. So
okay, I have one that I read and then one that I'm in the middle of. So my class, okay, so this is a little anecdote. So I teach theology. I have a couple sections of theology at Villanova this semester, and we're getting to the end of the semester. And at the end of the semester, I let them choose a novel, right? So we've done lots of works with lots of theological resources, ancient, you know, medieval, modern stuff. We've done all this stuff. And so at the end of the semester, I sort of throw them a little bit of a bone, and I let them pick a novel that we read for the last couple weeks of class, and make it a little easier. But then I give them a list. I don't let them choose like rando because they wouldn't be able to do that anyway because they don't read. So I give them a list of like 3 books. The one they picked, both of my sections picked Life of Pi.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. It was the only one that was familiar to them. And they all went, this was the longest one. None of them even looked it up, Hannah. I told them on a Monday so that they could look it up because I'm like, you're going to vote for this on Wednesday. I gave them the titles and I said, these are the ones you can vote for. I gave them that on Monday. Nobody looked it up.
I cannot.
This was the longest one. It's almost 500 pages long. When they found that out, they were mad. And they were like, can we vote again? I'm like, nope, you cannot vote again. And this is also the most difficult one. It's the most abstract of the books that I gave them. But, you know, they're kids who didn't do their homework. So they were stuck with the one that.
I mean, it's a good one for what you want to do. But it was, so you did Life of Pi, The House on the Cerulean Sea.
Yep, House on the Cerulean Sea and Station 11.
Oh, that's right. You did Station 11. I can't believe that you hadn't heard of that one.
Yeah. Well, they're 18, 19-year-olds,
Oh,
so man,
if they actually went and did their homework after they voted, they should have been so upset.
They were, because there was like one person in each class who had actually like looked them up.
Right.
And so each class had like one vote for like the other books. And so then they are telling their classmates, they're like, why did you get, like, that one's the longest one. By a long shot, it was the longest one. And they're like, wait, what? Can we vote again if we all just vote again? I'm like, no. So anyway, I'm writing Life of Pi, which is actually super readable also. I thought it might be a little bit harder to read, but it's not. And it's going very well. So, and I highly recommend Life of Pi. I've seen the film. I haven't actually read the whole book yet. But it is such a good story, and it has such good stuff. It's such good stuff. In that, for my class, it's perfect. So
I mean, I just am like, I am shocked.
I know.
I'm sure those other kids were so irritated. Like,
they were.
People are so stupid. It is not that hard. You have a computer with you at all times.
All times. It takes like 2 seconds to look up to see how long these books are.
I'm so sorry. I'm like so distracted by this, but like I'm just like, oh my god, you guys are so stupid.
Both of the classes, both classes picked Life of Pi. Yeah, I thought for sure I'd get 2 different books, so I was gonna have to like hunker down and read a couple books here, But nope.
Anyway, good for you.
So anyway, that was a fun little anecdote from my students. The other book that I picked up, what I was with Hannah, that she actually had on her.
I did. I still feel silly about that, but that's okay.
It totally doesn't even matter. I very much enjoyed it. This is Cartographers by Payne Shepherd, who also wrote she's the author of the Book of M, as in like the letter M, which I have not read that. But Payne Shepherd, nationally best-selling Book of M and the Cartographers. So so she got these 2 books. This was really good. It's sort of like this sort of a murder mystery book a little bit. Like that's kind of the thing. But it's like way bigger than that. And like this daughter, her dad, she's estranged from her dad, and he's a cartographer and she's a cartographer, and he gets murdered.
And tell me what a cartographer is again.
That's maps.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read the book yet and I can't quite remember.
Yeah. Cartography is the study of maps. So her dad and she are both cartographers, and he ends up, they're estranged. They, had a falling out, whatever. You learn all about that in the book. But then he gets murdered, and so then she is like, getting pulled into this much bigger story of what's going on, which has to do, of course, with her backstory and everything. And so it's all sort of like revealed throughout the story, as of course she and her people are trying to figure out, what happened to her dad and who killed him and all this sort of stuff. But it was like appropriately complicated story. Like it wasn't like a super easy. Like that wasn't easy to figure out, so there was definitely some twists and turns, and like super enjoyable to read, just like super enjoyable to read, a good little sort of murder mystery book, and not like graphic or anything. There's also a little bit of sort of magic in it. That's sort of a little maybe a touch like magical realism, but not quite, because everybody is sort of shocked by it, right? Usually magical realism.
Oh, yeah, magical realism kind of just like happens and nobody notices it. It's weird.
Yeah, exactly. Like in this book, people are like, wait, what? This seems weird. You know, like some magical things. Yeah. So it's not quite magical realism in that sense, but there's only like a few elements of magic. So other than that, it's like our normal world with just a couple little like magical things thrown in that confuse people and like people don't believe it and this sort of stuff. So I highly recommend it if you just want kind of like a nice fun read, if you like a good sort of like murder mystery, complicated family story with like not lovable characters, but like totally like decent, good characters that you don't hate or anything like that.
Yeah. Relatable characters. People that are like, relatable. Yeah. My friend Lisa that was on her recommendation list to me, which is actually why I picked it up, and I haven't read it yet. But I'm going to see her later this week, so I was like, oh, I'm glad Hattie finished it, and she liked it.
Yeah.
So
you can definitely tell Lisa. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. I mean, there's nothing like earth-shattering or anything like that.
No, I mean, I don't think you have to have earth-shattering every time you read a book. I mean, if you did,
that's too much.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So for sure. So that's mine. That's me wrapped up. That's what I got.
Okay. So let me do. I have one fiction that I want to talk about, and then I have a plug. So and had to be like, oh my gosh, not again.
Okay. But, if this is Adrienne Marie Brown.
I'm not there yet. So first, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang.
Oh, how is it? I want to know about that.
Okay. So this is it's a 500 plus book, 500 page plus book, which is a lot for me. Like that's a chunk of a book. It's called The Poppy War. This was her first novel, and it is actually a series. There's two more, I think, or maybe three. I thought it was a standalone. I was wrong. Surprise. Because Babel was a standalone, so I assumed this one was. But I don't know why I thought that. That was silly. It is about a young woman in a made-up country very similar to China. She is R.F. Kuang is did her studies at Cambridge on Chinese history. So reading through it, loving, her name is Rin, the protagonist, loving it. She goes to this school. That's the beginning part is kind of like these big three parts. The big first section is her in a school, very similar to Babel.
Yes, Babel.
Really liked the pacing of this one a little bit better than with Babel. I really liked the pacing of the school stuff, and then they end up going to war. She was a war college, basically, by the way. That's the kind of school she's going to. It was a war college. And then the third part got real dark and real. And so then it just took me a lot longer to finish than I thought it would, because I'm getting old, I guess. I used to be able to really read graphic, violent details, and it not particularly bother me. And I think, I don't know if I'm getting old and that or there is something about sexual violence and violence against women particularly that does hit me differently. That I struggle with a little bit more with reading it. But I was like, okay, it's a make-believe world, moving it, and it was good. It was very, very, very good. But in the third part, it did get like real dark. And I was like, oh, that's where we're going. But then I read the author's note, and that entire section that she wrote is basically what it happened in China. It's called, it's got a particular name, which I'm going to forget right now, and then I'm going to look it up and I'll say it incorrectly. So everyone can, the raping of Nanking. The Forgotten Holocaust of World War II. So it happened. Like, she pulled this stuff directly from that research that she did on the raping of Nanking. And I didn't know. I'm a little traumatized because I didn't know. And she gives
really great recommendations of other books to read, stuff that she has used, stuff that's really accessible for those of us who aren't nonfiction readers. And I think it's a really important thing to do. And so I'm going to follow up on a little bit of this, because I was like, oh, I think this, like, it matters, right? Like, I fell in love with this character. She, R.F. Kuang, one of the things I really like about her writing, though, is that she doesn't pretend. Like, she's very straightforward about her themes. And so for this one, it is very much about, like, what makes you a hero? Self-sacrifice, sacrificing others, or is it revenge? And doing the thing in order to make sure your people live. And it is really, she is really good at it, and not making easy choices around it for the characters. So I do think I'll finish the series eventually. It might take me a while.
Yeah, like maybe not tomorrow.
I also have just a lot of books to read, so that also is always a problem. I do.
Do you, Hannah? Yeah.
But I also, this is one of the things I do love around reading fantasy, though. Is like, because I read this whole book, and I got to that part, and I'm like, okay. It kind of felt a little bit like out of nowhere, in that it wasn't what she had been doing. Like, it didn't, like, the violence did not, like, ramp up. It was just like, and there it is.
And there it is, yeah.
After you finish it and you read this author's note, which, when did I start doing that, by the way? I don't even know. Right? Like,
now you know better. You're like, I'm never doing that again.
At 18, I never read an author's note in my life, right? Like, who reads authors? It's like, stupid, who cares? I'm like, now I like...
Why would I read that crap? Yeah.
And, but, like, she was able to build a fully fantastical world, which I knew was built on some, like, historical stuff, right? But a fully fantastical, mythological world, fantasy world, and then at the end, but this matters. Like, this really happened, and you actually need to, and I'm like, goodness gracious. Like, and now I'm going to go find, I highlighted the ones that I'm going to find, and I'm going to learn about this history of this moment, this thing that I had, in my ridiculousness, had no idea about. Because it is the forgotten Holocaust of World War II, obviously. I mean, I'm not like a history buff or anything, but I'm semi-educated. Like, I have a doctorate. No, I don't have a doctorate. What do I have? I don't have a doctorate.
She does not.
I do. What do I have?
You have a Master's of Divinity.
That's right. I have the most Harry Potter of all of the master's degrees. Yeah, you're welcome. I have the Master's of Divinity. I'm a graduate. That was the word I was looking for. A graduate degree.
You do have a graduate degree.
I read things, but, like, yeah. So I do recommend it. I really enjoy her writing. I am finding that I have actually, and I really liked her pacing in this one a little bit better than I liked Babel's pacing. Yeah. It did just take me a while to finish it, because I was like, oh God, how far are we going down this rabbit hole? Pretty far. Yeah. Pretty far.
All the way. All the way. Went all the way down.
And now I'm, like, intrigued to see where she kind of, like, takes this and takes Rin as a character, because at the end of this book, Rin is not making great choices, in my opinion.
Happens.
But it's not part of it, though, right? Like, that's what war does. It does not make you make great choices. Okay. My last plug for bookish kind of people I just want to say, I started this Journal of Radical Permission, daily guide for following your soul's call by Adrienne Marie Brown and Sonia Renee Taylor. We're using this for a bit of our women's retreat that's coming up, and so I had started, like, reading it and working through some of the exercises. And again, I just want to say, if that is something that is that you'd like to experiment with or intrigues you in any way, it is a lot of bodily, like, autonomy. If you know their work at all, that it's, like, very much about, like, what is your body calling you to? It is. These were the two books for our retreat, and I have to say they were excellent pairing.
Good. Yeah, that's fantastic.
But so I just wanted to give you that bit of a plug. I'm at the very beginning of it. But yes, it's Adrienne Marie Brown. But I don't always talk about, like, some of the journaling things that I do. So, but I was like, maybe somebody out there would be interested, or just, like,
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really self-guided. guided in many ways. You know, it's just like kind of a question, just something to be reflective on. And, you know, it's supposed to be a day by day. It's 12 weeks. But for those who are like me, like I'm not super strict. So like some days I'm like, oh, that question, I feel like I need a little bit of time to sit with that question. Like I can't just like answer it. And so it's really helpful that it just kind of gives you the freedom to do that too. So yeah.
That's great. Very nice. Excellent. Okay. Well, we're at 8:38 according to my clock here.
We were chatty tonight. We had a lot of books.
We had a lot of books, which is kind of funny because we literally did one of these 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
honestly, it's not anything that I'm going to be reading. Almost everything, I don't.
No, me neither. Well, I am in the middle of Heroine, and I am in the middle of Life of Pi, the Heroine.
That's true.
1001 Faces. Yeah. But the others I finished, so, you know.
Right. Well, have Rest and Resistance and Trust Kids is all I'm in the middle of, but I've been in the middle of that one for a while. So.
For a while.
I'm going to get it done. It's going to get done in April. I'm not worried about it. It's getting done.
Sometimes things take time. You got to sit with them. You got to, like, let yourself absorb, and, like, sometimes these books just take a little longer than you think. Well, that's okay. I
do think there is, like, sometimes we do put pressure on ourselves. I know it's 8:38, but I just am going to take this moment to say this. Like, I do think as quote-unquote avid readers, I have sometimes felt like a pressure to, like, get something done before I start something new. I can't have, like, 2 books at the same time. Well, obviously I can. I mean, I have cultivated that ability. But I also do think sometimes, particularly with some of the nonfiction or even, like, hitting something, like, in the poppy where we're like, whoa, I am not quite ready to, like, absorb all of that. Like, it's okay to set it down and start something else and like come back to it. Or like with the Trust Kids, I just like, there are these really short little chapters, and so and you can kind of get in and out of it that way. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, books don't have to be started at the beginning and ended at the end. Like, it just doesn't have to be quite that mechanical, as Teresa Hershey would say. We don't have to be, it doesn't have to be an assembly line of book. It can be a little bit messier. That's all.
Yep, it sure can.
But like, it's cool, right? We were taught very like, you have to finish this book before you can pick out that book. Like, did you get this one done yet? Like, it's pretty, So anyway.
I totally agree. And I tend to function in, a particular way, but like, I try not to beat myself up, although it is a challenge, I will say. Like, it is a challenge to sort of not beat myself up when it's like, you know what, I really don't want to finish. Like, I'm not into this one. And like, and setting it down sometimes is a struggle, like a mental sort of struggle. It feels like, oh, I already put like this much effort into it. It's like, well, maybe I should just do it. It's like, no, you really don't have to. It's okay. And usually if I feel like I need someone to give me permission, I just tell George that I'm like really not loving this book, and I tell him all the things I hate about it. And he's like, you can just stop reading it, Marie. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can. Like, I just need to sort of like hear it back at me, because it's like, oh yeah, duh. Like,
I don't have to keep reading it.
Yeah, exactly. But just having like that another person just like say it to you, even though it's like completely dumb obvious. Sometimes you just helps, so
you need to have give yourself radical permission to put the book down and be like, and what you offered it was enough time, and it was good, and it was enough. Like, and it wasn't a waste. You probably learned something that you didn't want to read it. That's what you learned.
Yeah, you learned something. Yeah.
There are a billion books in the world. There's so much good stuff out there. Like, it's not worth
reading ones you don't like, because there's so many out there that you're gonna love.
Yeah. So. Yep. Anywho, okay, that was my little. I'll get off my soapbox.
Off your soapbox. Very good soapbox, though.
Okay, so we will be back. I think in 2 weeks is our schedule.
Yeah.
So we should be back in 2 weeks. We are hopefully getting out. I'm hopefully getting out a newsletter this week to folks. So if you do want to sign up for that, it'll have kind of our latest and greatest, couple of things that we're planning for the spring and this upcoming couple of months. Definitely go to www.thebookwar.com and you can sign up for the newsletter there. Otherwise, like and follow us here and on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel, and thanks for watching.
Yep. Good night, everybody.
All right, night, everyone. Thanks, sis.